You'll first need to remove the rear wheel, but make sure you drop it into the smallest cog on the cassette. This will make it easier to get the wheel in and out. You may have different styles of axle. You might need a 15mm spanner, you might have a quick release, or you might have a thru-axle. Once the wheel is out of the bike, make sure all the air is completely out of the inner tube, and then you can start to unseat the bead by pressing the bead into the centre of the rim. Once the bead is in the centre of the rim, you can use a tyre lever to start removing the first bead. Once you've got a little bit off, it should make it a lot easier and you'll be able to get it off by hand. You may need a second tyre lever if it's a tight fit. Once the first bead is off and you've removed the inner tube, the second bead will come off the wheel a lot easier. While the tyre and tube are off the wheel, it's a good chance to inspect the rim tape for any damage. When you're ready to fit the new tyre, check the directional arrow on the new tyre so it's rolling in the correct direction. Start fitting the first bead from opposite the valve hole. Now you need to fit the inner tube. Slightly inflate the inner tube so it takes shape. Place the valve in through the rim, then slot the rest of the inner tube inside the tyre. With the second bead, we're now going to repeat the process from the first bead. We will start opposite the valve again, working around towards it and trying to push the bead into the centre of the rim at all times. This again will give you the slack needed to get the tyre on at the end. When you get to the last section on the bead, it can get quite tight. Sometimes you can work it on by hand, or sometimes you might need to use a tyre lever. If you need to use a tyre lever, make sure you don't nip the tube and do it in little sections. Don't try and push the whole bead on in one go. Now the beads are on, you want to inflate the tyre. Before you start inflating the tyre, double check the maximum pressures for the tyre and also the rim. As the tyre is inflating, you might hear a few pops and cracks. This is the bead sitting in position. Once the tyre is inflated, check around the rim to make sure the tyre is fully seated. If you're happy with the seating position of the tyre on the rim, it's time to remount the wheel in the bike. Wrap the chain around the cassette in the same position as you took it off. Once the wheel is in the frame, tighten the wheel up and give the wheel a spin to make sure everything's running true.